Roses are red, violets are blue. The Mariners have reported, and we have too. Welcome to episode 61 of the Hit It Here podcast, part of the Bleav network, the Munenori Kawasaki episode. And today we're going to be talking about, well, the Mariners reporting to spring training. We're going to talk about the jersey conundrum that's going on, as well as a listener question here at the end of the podcast that I think will be interesting to talk about. And we'll kind of wrap it up here with, I guess, our thoughts on a guy the Mariners had just acquired or signed earlier today on Valentine's Day. We're recording this on Valentine's Day. So, Joe, happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day, dude. The Mooney episode, kinda. I mean, Dave Sims calls Andres Munoz Mooney now, but I think there's only one in our hearts, right?
Well, I think because he was Muni.
Is that how it works?
Muninori.
Yeah. Is that the differentiating factor there? Just the pronunciation?
I have no idea.
Okay. Well, regardless, good episode pick on your part today.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, it's a good day. I would say we got everyone's not everybody. It's only pitchers and catchers, but there's people walking up. The Mariners social media team is providing us with some happiness on February 14th. Guys walking in, Cal's looking cute. Andres Munoz is looking very cute.
His hair is really long.
Dude, he's got the flow rocking.
It's like it's coming in.
Mm-hmm. George Kirby already throwing a pen. I think Brian Wu was next to him in the video that they posted. Very, very exciting things for Mariners baseball, just in general, across the board. We're back. And I don't know, I'm just excited to get the season underway, even if half of the free agent population isn't wanting to do that. That's okay. And there's some rumblings within the Mariners division, not for the Mariners, okay? But this is Mariners related because Justin Verlander, Astros number 2 starting pitcher, maybe number 1, depends on who you ask, but probably number 2. He's a little bit behind schedule, which I don't want to say it bodes well for the Mariners because it's never a good thing when guys are injured. However, if there's some other news aside from the Mariners have reported today, like Verlander and I think JP France are also behind their throwing schedules with like shoulder soreness or whatever. I'm not mad about it.
I think that it's a pretty big thing when anytime a player of that caliber is injured on a team in your division. Again, we don't wish injuries on anybody, but honestly, I would bet that the Astros fans are shaking in their boots. But first, a word from Bet Online.
The Super Bowl is done and dusted, but you know who's not done and dusted? Bet Online. And with the MLB season coming next, and all baseball fans can rejoice because the Super Bowl is done. That means it's baseball season. We've got next. And Bet Online has you covered all season long, even before the season starts. And say you're, wanting to continue to place some bets until the MLB season really kicks into gear. The NBA and NHL are right there readily available for you, and BetOnline has the best up-to-date news, odds, trends, and predictions for all your betting needs, and they've got you covered with desktop access and mobile access as well. With that being said, with the MLB season rolling around, the Mariners looking like they're in pretty good shot to make a run at this thing, and with how the odds are set up right now, it might not be a bad idea to maybe make a cheeky little bet for the World Series. I've got some good faith that BetOnline has us covered all season long and that the Mariners will do us some justice this year as well. BetOnline. The game starts here.
So with Justin Verlander and JP France possibly being both behind schedule, and that's not to say that they're going to miss any time at the start of the season, but if you're the Mariners, obviously last year Jose Altuve was hurt was he hurt in the WBC or was it before the WBC?
It was during the WBC. He got hit on the hand.
That's right, yeah. And so he was out for a little while, and the Mariners needed to take advantage of that time where they could play, I don't want to say catch up, but get a head start on the Astros in 2023, and that didn't happen. And again, it's not to say that France or Verlander are going to be out at any point at the start of the year, but if they are, and the Mariners can somehow magically stay healthy through spring training, the Mariners have to get off to a hot start. And with that being said, I also think that there's a chance that maybe we won't see much of Brian Wu. Maybe he's behind on his throwing program, which is entirely possible just because of how many innings we saw him throw last year. As of today, we have not heard about anybody pertinent to this roster right now that isn't ready for spring training, that is not prepared to go out there and start a spring training game if they need to. I think that if you're a Mariners fan right now, you're in a pretty good spot with the health of this team. Now, that could change very, very quickly. We've seen throughout the years guys get hurt in spring training, and it obviously takes a big toll on the first month or two for this team. But right now, the Mariners are in a good spot.
I think the only guy off the top of my head is Gregory Santos because he was injured list at the end of last year. Chris Getz had said, like, I think in December that his medicals were coming back, like, looking good, but probably wouldn't have a super heavy spring, would be ready for opening day. And I think that still stands as of right now. I don't think we've heard anything else other than that. So, newly acquired, back into the bullpen guy, Gregory Santos, might be in limited action in spring. But you make a good point about, like, talking about, like, where the Mariners are out. Say, like, when Altuve was out last year, it's getting a head start. It's getting ahead of these teams that will be at full strength later on. The Rangers will get Max Scherzer back at some point during this season. Theoretically. Same thing with Jacob deGrom, barring setbacks. There are guys that the teams are not going to be at full strength when hopefully the Mariners will be. And if I'm looking at the Astros rotation, like that automatically slides Jose Urquidy into the rotation. I think he might have already been factored into it ahead of JP France potentially. But maybe that causes them to make a free agent signing of some sort. Maybe it's not going to be this lucrative high-end guy, but I can't think of who is still. They're not going to go out and sign Jordan Montgomery or Blake Snell, in my opinion. That's not what the Astros would be after. They're more after like a mid-level guy to fill in, maybe a swingman. Like a DeSclafani would have been perfect, I feel like, in this situation. Obviously not available on the free agent market. But as for the Mariners, it's the first day. We're still pretty new into, them being back. So there isn't a whole lot of, I think, content or stuff on the surface to really dive into, but it's just nice seeing baseball activity again, ultimately.
Seeing the pictures and the videos from down in Peoria, it just does so much for my mental health. I'm like, yep, I am in so much of a better mood because of that. Like, I'm seeing Peoria. I freaking love Peoria. If you guys have never been down there, go down there. I'll be down there in about a month, actually. A month from today, I will be in Peoria.
Very exciting.
So, we got the mental health down here, and then boom, right back up. It's all it takes, baby. It's all it takes. Spring training, Peoria, Arizona, sunshine, In-N-Out Burger, Raisin Canes. Leo's.
I was going to say, where's the barbecue shout?
Leo's barbecue. You better believe I'm going to Leo. If I don't go to Leo's this year, it's over.
You may as well just go by yourself.
It's Colt over.
Yeah.
I will go by myself. I don't care.
Yeah.
I will DoorDash it. I don't care. To the hotel.
Just gonna pay a ridiculous fee.
I do not care.
It's so worth it.
I need it. So with all the guys in spring training, we have seen a little bit more about this jersey conundrum that is going on around MLB with Nike switching to whatever the hell they're calling these new jerseys.
Mm-hmm.
And they look ugly.
They're rough.
They're really bad. I think that I tweeted the other day that they remind me of the jerseys they give away.
Yeah. You got one hanging up back there?
Kind of like that Griffey jersey.
Yeah.
So, Joe, this is going to be so niche, Joe.
I'm ready.
But when you, me, and Chance had gone to Dodger Stadium, I think that was for my birthday, or maybe it was just you and me when we went with my dad.
No, it's the Justin Turner one.
The Justin Turner one?
Yeah.
They look just like that.
Yeah. No, it's spitting image almost.
I will try to find that jersey and send a picture of it to you so you can throw it up at this point in the podcast.
Uh-huh.
But they look just like a jersey that they give away for free at the gates. That's how bad they are.
Something that I saw that was an interesting comparison. I don't know if it was fuzzy. There's so many just big accounts posting about all the jerseys and plenty of guys in the Mariners community as well. Like I know Mariners on Tap was tweeting. Like there's so many guys. Okay, so many. But I looked. There was a picture of the All-Star Game jerseys that was posted, and someone was saying the spacing and the lettering looks similar to what they're rolling out for 2024.
That was the plan, is they said they were wearing them at the All-Star Game.
Yeah, and so I don't dislike. I mean, we both have the Kirby All-Star Game jersey. I don't dislike it by any means. I think the reason why though is because it's its own entity. It felt like it was its own occasion, whereas all these jerseys now are going to be that carbon copy where it looks, I mean, I'll say it looks cheap. It looks cheap. Ultimately, the lettering's smaller. It doesn't feel like a jersey anymore. It feels like you're saying, like those cheap ones that you get at the gate for free, whatever. Got the Alaska Airlines thing on the tag there, or the Sato Enterprises on the other arm, whatever you want to call it, whoever was sponsoring it that night. And it just sucks because I don't know. jerseys are such a important part, I think, of fandom for me. I don't have a ton. I don't have as many as you do. And I'm glad that you have a lot. And I'm glad that I got my fair share last year when they were
Mm.
still, not they haven't been updated. I was thinking about calling the team store and being like, "Hey, you still have like a 2023 like Cal teal one or something like that?" before they're shelved forever because one, the new ones are more expensive, which is hilarious that they're raising the price on what looks like a cheaper product. And it's kind of poetic with Mariners fandom to have like a cheaper looking product potentially go out and get more money kind of a situation. Don't want to play into that crowd too much, but it's kind of poetic in a bad way.
I have a story about that I just thought of for this season. But before we get too far into that, I think that when you were talking about the All-Star Game jerseys, I have always disliked, at least on the back of like the Kirby one, I don't like the lettering. I don't like the way it looks. And like you said, the jersey itself is comfortable. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine with it. I don't feel like it's as breathable as some of the other ones, but that's whatever.
Yeah,
Who
they're
cares?
lying through their teeth. Like I can't feel a difference really.
hmm And I don't know. The lettering is just what really gets me, mainly on the back of the jersey. The front, whatever. It's just, I have always thought that it doesn't look as crisp because obviously a few years ago when the Mariners they went to this one where it's like outlined, with
Sure.
like the teal when they switched it from teal then silver to silver then teal, which was back in 2016, I think,
Mm-hmm.
or something like that. They started to look so much crisper than they were before that. And now they just took a step in the wrong direction, specifically for the Mariners. I mean, other jerseys, I don't know. But specifically for Mariners jerseys, it looks so dull. And all the players, they're like, I actually like these, blah, blah. No, you don't.
Yeah, there's someone behind the camera just like
Yeah.
say good things about it. Like the Jason Hayward video, I think is the one that's going the most like viral. Like he's wearing his Dodgers, like looking at it, so he's like, yeah, this is actually way better than before. It's like, okay, I understand that like this is just a PR thing. Like you have to get people on the good side of it, but it just, I don't know, the lettering. It looks like something I could do if I bought like a cricket. Like a cricket, is that what it's called? The sticker.
Cricket or cry cut, yeah.
Whatever. Oh, Crike. Whoa, sounds European. I don't know. It just I've seen comparisons to like youth soccer jerseys, like what people are calling it, and like also them like changing like how the lettering looks on like the front. Like I saw like the Braves and the Dodgers, like it's splitting in different parts than it used to before, and it doesn't seem like a natural break in like where like the jersey overlaps as much anymore.
Mhm.
Like I can't remember what for the Dodgers, like if it was on like the second D and now it's like on the D and the G. I don't know. Them dropping the MLB logo underneath the little dude. Ugly.
It looks like one that you got shipped from China.
Yeah, no,
Like just straight from China.
the DH Gate jersey, like it's going to see a resurgence this year with them because they're going to be on like I think comparable levels of quality for $130 less.
I have a Mark Trumbo jersey
Mm-hmm.
that is so incredibly bad. Like where it's supposed to say marriage across the chest, it says it like down here. And I'll send you a picture for that one too. These pictures need to be seen to really understand what I'm talking about.
Audio
'Cause
listeners are just pounding the table
they're
right now, like,
so
dang
confused.
it.
We'll put it, audio listeners. I'll put it on Twitter.
There you
I'll
go.
put it on Twitter. Go follow us on Twitter at Mojo Mariner. The other thing we're talking about, worst product for a higher price. I went and looked at opening day tickets the other day, and the cheapest one, it was in like the bleachers for like $50.
Uh-oh.
I'm like, that's the cheapest ticket you got
That's unfortunate.
for a team that up until like a month ago, everyone was pounding the table saying like boycott it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the cheapest ticket they got.
I mean,
I was
it's
I get that
opening
it's
day,
opening day,
and it's
but
Boston. I think Boston's also could be
true.
like a pretty big seller. Not to say that like I'm picking Boston to win the East. I'm probably like if I had to bet any team, bet online.
But first, the word from
Boston's probably fifth or fourth, realistically, in the East for me. Like I like a lot of the pieces there. Like Tristan Cassis is great, Brian Payo is great, but ultimately, it's not. They're not gonna be at the top. But it is just like a pretty I don't say like it's a prestigious franchise. When they come to town, there's a lot of fans there, similar like when the Blue Jays come, but that's because Canada, Yankee. Obviously, there's just the franchises that bring in more fans naturally. So maybe that's playing into it for opening day, but ultimately, it's just opening day. Like that's just kind of that's the way the cookie crumbles for $50 bleacher sheets. Apparently, bleacher sheets.
Bleacher sheets.
Bleacher sheets. By the way, they're so sheety. Anyways. All right, and this has been episode 61 of the Hit It Here podcast.
The Pat Venditti episode of the Hit It Here podcast.
Yo, switch pitcher?
I think that it's time we move on, Joe.
Okay.
We've harped too much about the jerseys.
That's fair.
So now we're going to talk about the Mariners. They just signed a 27-year-old pitcher to a minor league deal, Jordan Holloway.
Is that an invite to spring training as well?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's a good question.
You'll be in minor league camp, maybe?
Yeah. It was on the MILB transactions log. Great question, Joe.
Well, there you go. Jordan Holloway. New Mariner.
Yeah, he has, 39 innings pitched in the major leagues between, I think those were mainly with Miami.
All with Miami from 2020 to 2022.
And then he spent last year in between the White Sox and the Cubs in their minor league system. I mean, they showed some of his TrackMan data.
Okay.
And like, it's fine. You know what I mean? So according to the Pro Day Spotlight from Cressy Sports Performance something or another.
Of course.
Jordan Holloway was sitting 98 and showcasing plus secondary offerings in his Pro Day bullpen session. Big offseason mechanical adjustments have Holloway primed for a monster 2024. They have his total spin here on his curve. Okay, it just changed. His fastball total spin 2214. Okay, so higher RPM. Okay, they're just showing his fastball. This is like a 10-minute video. I'm not watching the whole thing. But
he's got a slider too.
Yeah.
And that's what the Mariners are after, is a high velo fastball. Seems like the RPM on it's pretty decent, and then you've got to potentially fix his slider. It's a guy that you're bringing into minor league camp. When you first told me about it, I'm gonna tell them, I compared him. He's the pitching Jackson Holiday. Like, he's like the discount, because like Jordan Holloway, it's like close enough, right? So he's primed to have a big year, just like Jackson Holiday will for the Baltimore Orioles. A guy added to the pile. It's nothing crazy, right? Will we ever see Jordan Holloway pitch in the bigs for the Mariners? I don't know.
Is that a question for me? Oh.
It's more of a rhetorical question, because every single time we talk about the bullpen, it's like, you may never hear this guy again. He could be dragged to a back alley. We're just kidding. Not going to happen. Whoa, little dark. Really dark. Again, it's depth. Another guy thrown into the lab. Hopefully they can do something with him. And if not, he's just going to be pitching for the Tacoma Rainiers and call it a day.
So that brings up an interesting question then, Joe, that we got from our Discord and our podcast question. It's the Discord is now open to the public. So if you'd like to join, click the link down below.
Yeah.
Have fun conversations with us in the podcast question section. You can put questions for this podcast, and you might get lucky and have it posted or said on the show, asked on the show.
Like this one right here from Nicola. Nicola, appreciate your question. Also, Tyler, a bunch of people commented about the jersey, so that was naturally going to be a segment. So you guys don't get credit for that one. I'm just kidding. Nicola asked, is there ever going to be a, quote, hitting lab, end quote? I think that is more of a question that we'll be having in probably like 2 to 3 years, when a lot of our prospects that can come up through the system and develop as hitters, we'll see what they can do. Because in the past, the Dustin Ackleys, maybe even if you want to label Jared Kelenic into it, there's been guys that have come up that just haven't developed as a hitter with the Seattle Mariners. And pitching has been really great. George Kirby, Logan Gilbert. We haven't fully seen Emerson Hancock yet, but I still think there's upside for like a number 4, number 5 out there. Bryce Miller, Brian Wu. And the main thing for the pitching lab is also relievers. And I think that's probably the biggest disconnect for the lack of either identifying good hitting talent in the free agent pool or trade class of those veterans that you're bringing in. Like, they could not get AJ Pollock to hit lefties like he once was. They did not allow Colton, or maybe not they, in the practice here, Like Colton Wong had a career worst year. Teoscar Hernandez regressed. So is that a question of the hitting lab maybe causing people to not be as good, or maybe the personnel there? They brought in Brant Brown, so maybe he's gonna be able to start developing the lab. He's laying the groundwork for it right now. He's nailing in baseboards. He's setting up the foundation for the hitting lab. Okay, he's lining the fences for the batting cages and such. So I think in like 2 to 3 years is where we'll be able to really identify it. With if Harry Ford is a contributor at the major league level, Cole Young, Colt Emerson, like there are going to be prospects I think that you're going to want to look out for that will be big identifiers. And maybe those guys would be successful no matter what. And it's lower level prospects or the ones that you don't expect. Say Jonathan Class A somehow figures out how to hit a baseball instead of just like running around really fast. That's then a question like, okay, did he get that from the hitting lab, or is it guys going to drive line like Ty and JP? I think there's a lot of nuance to this question because we've seen so much success with the pitching lab. It's like, when are the hitters going to turn around?
I think it specifically goes with the way that, if we're talking specifically prospects, it goes with the Mariners draft classes.
Mm-hmm.
They started out when Jerry and Justin got here, mainly Jerry. It was all pitchers. It was George Kirby, Emerson Hancock, Logan Gilbert, boom, 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 bunch of pitchers in a row. In terms of like first round draft picks, they went heavy on the pitching side of things, and now we see this is the Mariners' strong suit. Sure. So if we're calling that the pitching lab, then yeah, I think that attributes a lot to the pitching lab. Whereas for the hitters, they didn't start drafting like a college hitter or even a high school hitter straight out in the first round of the draft until what, 2021?
Yeah, I think 2021 Harry Ford. No, Harry Ford.
Harry Ford, yeah. So like it went Ford and then Cole Young and then Colt Emerson and all these guys that are getting drafted in the first round now. You see a change in the way the Mariners are drafting. They went from pitching heavy side now to the hitting heavy side, and I wouldn't be shocked if in a year or two's time we see them go back to pitching, and they just kind of keep doing it like that because you're accelerating parts of. So right now the Mariners pitching staff is really good. In a few years' time, if let's say Logan and George Kirby don't get extended and they leave, God forbid. Well, hopefully then you have the hitting side being able to carry the freight. Like you have the Cole Youngs, the Colt Emersons, all that stuff. And then maybe we're having a totally different conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Ballpark factors definitely play a role. Because what the Mariners have done specifically with relievers is they have brought guys in and focused on, hey, your best pitch is your slider, statistically. You have always gotten more guys out with your slider. Throw your slider more. Cool. But when you're a hitter,
cool.
When you're a hitter, a lot of hitters don't want to come to this ballpark simply because it's harder to hit here. It is a proven fact that it's harder to hit in T-Mobile Park than it is in, say, I don't know,
Great American Small Park,
or Cincinnati or something like that. It's just statistically harder. So hitters don't want to come here as it is for the most part, unless A, they're given a bigger incentive, a bigger package to come here, or they just think this team is they think they can overcome it. And like it's happened. Nelson Cruz overcame the Marine Layer, overcame the ballpark. So did Robinson Cano. Like there are guys out there that can do it, but we have seen time and time again guys come here that just simply cannot. And Colton Wong was a good example. Obviously Adam Frazier was a good example, although Jesse Winker's another good example. A lot of guys from the 2022 team. Wait a second. Finally, my point on that is, when it comes to the pitching lab, you can say, hey, throw your slider more. That's your best pitch. Well, on the hitting side of things, it's not as easy to just say, hey, you crush fastballs, only swing at those. Because, okay, then they're just never going to throw. Like, look at Jared Kelenic. They started to just never throw him the fastball. Mm-hmm. They just threw him breaking ball after breaking ball, and he was getting out all the time, and he had to readjust. Whereas pitchers, you could say, hey, this is your best pitch, throw it.
Because if it's devastating enough, like, no one's ever going to touch it.
Right. So there's a lot more nuance to a hitting lab, I would say, than there is a pitching lab. Not to say that it can't happen. There's a lot more that needs to go into it than simply throw this pitch more or swing like this more.
So. I think part of it, and I don't know if this is something that's like you can like quantify it, but looking at like say like the Braves, just identifying good talented hitters, and maybe not to say like Teo wasn't a good talented hitter. He's in the MLB for very good reason. He can do a lot of great things with a bat in his hand. But he couldn't hit a slider, and everyone knew that. And there was no adjustments made. So is it more so on the coaching staff or like the hitters themselves to go in and make those adjustments? Probably. And I think this offseason, with a lot of turnover on the offensive side will be a good tell of one, if we're still struggling with the front office's ability to identify good talent in free agency, in trades to bring to T-Mobile. The AJ Pollock thing should have worked out, didn't. Is that them missing on his window? Maybe. Colton Wong, same thing. Like, what really happened there? It's hard to say, but is it a lack of identifying true talent bringing it into T-Mobile? So say they do perform or whatever, then it's like, okay, is the hitting lab now in the right place because they're performing based around the coaching staff, like Brant Brown is brought in as the hitting strategist? Or was it them identifying good talent from the front office perspective? Like, oh, Mitch Garver has one of the lowest chase percentages. He's a very disciplined hitter. He knows what he likes to hit. He mashes fastballs. He'll fit great here in T-Mobile. It's like, there's a lot of things that can go right, and it's not one answer of like, when will this happen or will this ever be developed? It's a lot of things that will culminate all together over time. And you said 1 to 2 years. I gave it a bigger window, like 2 to 3, just because I feel like some of the prospects might not be ready. But with the way the farm system's set up, should a lot of these guys stick and fit? One, it's them figuring out the right talent to draft through the MLB draft or the international signing period, like guys like Lazaro Montes or say Michael Royal comes up and is a great contact hitter at the top of your order, a little guy that slaps the ball around the field. Sure, like there's things that can go right, but it's a lot less easily identifiable. That was a weird sentence. Whoa. It's a lot harder to identify the way to a hitting lab than a pitching lab, which I think are some great points that you raised about like hitters having, I think, less of an advantage in that sense of they don't get to control what pitch they're being thrown. They have to make the decision in a blink of an eye, whether it's a ball, a strike, a pitch that they feel like they can hit, situationally they can hit. Like, it's a losing game. I mean, we celebrate guys that fail 70% of the time, which is what makes, I think, baseball so incredibly difficult. And adding in the park factor, it's just like there's a lot. We use the word nuance a lot. There's a lot of nuance to the hitting lab. So hopefully, I think we shed some light on what a hitting lab would be or like how it's developed. There's just because there's not a real answer for it right now of like when will there be one, because we didn't know the pitching lab was going to happen until we started seeing trends of, okay, they got Eric Swanson to have like a 230 ERA plus. They got Casey Sadler to have like a 600 ERA plus. Justin Topa went from a nothing to a 155 ERA plus. Like, there are things that you can start to pick out and see, and then they're speaking on it, like Taylor Saucedo's mentioned it a bunch. Justin Topa has talked about it plenty. And so with hitters, it's probably going to happen in the next 1 to 2 to 3 years where like you can really identify that.
And there are teams that have already done it. You look at the Dodgers or you look at the Braves. I mean, even the Rays, like they have, in my opinion, the Rays have the best lab in general.
Sure.
Like the Rays are so incredibly cheap, but they know what they're doing, and so they can get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference between a team like the Rays and the A's. Both incredibly cheap teams, but the Rays are really good at bringing up prospects, knowing who they're targeting, super athletic, guys who can play all over the field. You're going to have Isak Paredes come up and hit 300. You're going to have Luke Raley, who was never really anything much for the Dodgers. You're going to turn him into a guy last year who probably could have been an all-star.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to, I don't know, or the Orioles, for example, they've drafted a lot of good young talent. And so now everyone says the Orioles have a great hitting lab. Again, easier to hit there. But it really is. And for example, like Chavez Ravine down in LA for the Dodgers, other than the fact they have crazy star power. But for the Dodgers, it's not an easy place to hit either. But they are good at turning guys. Look at Chris Taylor, good at turning guys that were absolutely nothing into something. I mean, even Justin Turner when he first went over to the Dodgers.
Yeah, like prolonging those careers. Like, yeah, he was not great with the Mets, but he turned into I think he's, I don't know if I can say this with my chest. Hold on. I was going to say something about how much career WAR he has with the Dodgers. I think it's like, I think he's in there. I'm not going to say he's in the top 20. That's crazy, Joe. That's absolutely crazy that I'm trying to say that out loud. Yeah, bro, he's top 20. He's 21st in career WAR with the Dodgers. Just because somehow, some way, they just made him into a guy that just smashes the ball.
Again, if the Mariners come out this year with they have changed their identity as an offensive unit when it comes to last year, it was very boom or bust. either hit a home run or you strike out and the inning's over. Now it's a lot of, hey, you should be able to string hits together to score some runs. It might be a little bit more small ball. You might not see as many balls going over the wall this year as we did in the past couple of years. But this team, like you said, they shouldn't chase as much. We talked about Mitch Garver's really, really good plate discipline. Obviously, Teo is gone. Obviously, Gino is gone. Those were the two of the highest strikeout guys in all of baseball last year. So this team's identity has changed to the point where I think that you could even say, let's say at the end of the year, the Mariners have, I don't know what their full offensive line was last year. Let's say they're hitting like 250, 320, like 425 as a team or something like that. Just random numbers. I'm just pulling out my butt here. But do you then say, oh, this is now a or a hitting lab, even though it really was just a changing of the identity of the team? I don't know. You might be able to, and with the future of the team, adding all these guys from minor leagues, maybe that trend continues, and then you have a hitting lab. But it's like we said, it's just so much harder to have a hitting lab than it is to have a pitching lab, in both of our opinions, because it's not focusing on just one thing.
Yeah, so last year their slash line was 242, 321, 413. So you made marginal improvements based around some things there. I think it'd be enough to make a difference. The big thing is, like, we were second in strikeout percentage, 25.9%, just behind Minnesota at 26.6. So it's pretty steep, right? Like, the team that struck out the least was the Guardians. Not a great offensive team, but they just lacked, I think, raw power. They struck out in 18.7% of the time. So, just getting it to league average and then raising, like, the slash line, like you're saying, up marginal amounts, like 8 batting average points, like 12, 13 slugging, like, it's going to make a difference at the end of the day. You'll be putting more runs across.
Spring has sprung, and so have we. And Joe and I, in our last episode of the podcast, talked about the spring training battles to watch in 2024. Because believe it or not, there are a couple of them that I think are going to be pretty important. Go ahead and check that video out. It's on the screen now. Thank you guys so much for watching episode 61 of the Hit It Here podcast, presented by Bet Online, the Casey Lawrence episode of the Hit It Here podcast, and go Mariners.